Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Wrap Up. I'm Ben Schneider. With me tonight, Adam Lemeries, Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, and Josh Birch. In the grid ranking this week, we had NASCAR at Michigan and INDYCAR Gateway, but I think we have to start off with one of the biggest races of the year. Kobe and Josh recapping the 89th 24 Hours of Le Mans.
That's right, 24 Hours of Le Mans, always one of the biggest races of the year, and now we're going to recap it with Josh, who called the 24-hour endurance race on his YouTube channel. Gotta give yourself a pat on the back for that, Josh. That was really remarkable work you did into Toyota Gazoo Racing. Dominated the race. Shocker, right? With the number 7 Le Mans Hypercar winning overall, a big win for Kamui Kobayashi, Mike Conway, and Jose Maria Lopez. We're used to seeing the number 8 Toyota in victory lane, so it's finally nice for the number 7 Toyota squad to break through in Toyota Gazoo Racing's fourth straight overall Le Mans victory. As time goes on, we'll see more LMH manufacturers, Peugeot coming soon, and LMDH in 2023, and the competition is only going to get tougher for Toyota in this year's race. We thought the LMH class might see a race of attrition. Oh boy, we completely got it wrong with all 5 prototypes in the hypercar class finishing the race, taking first through 5th, the 2 Toyotas, followed by Alpine and the 2 Glickenhaus. Josh, were you surprised to see all LMH cars running at the finish? How did Toyota control the race once again?
It was a very odd one, wasn't it? Throughout the entire race, I was expecting certainly 2 of the new hypercars to drop out. I was mainly expecting to see one of the Toyotas and one of the Glickenhaus Racings to drop out. However, they all managed to continue, but Toyota got lucky in qualifying. They had their 1-2 secured. Alpine gave them a very big run for their money for second place. But the number 7 Toyota had it locked in all weekend. It was fast out the block. Finally, as well. And as you said, commentating for 24 hours, slightly losing the voice. I hope people can tell the difference. For Toyota, it was an interesting situation because from the get-go, they had the 7 Toyota out front. But they had the number 8 right down at the back of the field because of a nasty little accident with the 708 car hitting the back of their baby, if you will, the number 8, who's won the past 3 years as well, that number and that car. So it was a bit of a dangerous start for them. They had to fight their way back up. I think by the end of the first hour, Buemi, who was in control of the car at the time, had got back into about 9th place. So after that, it was just a question of getting the pit stops right. And I think by hour 12, they were right back up with each other, only because Jose Maria Lopez at the time decided to give Toyota a heart attack by locking up and going off at the Indianapolis corner and narrowly avoiding touching the barrier. Had to be wheeled off, didn't it? Craned back up the track and got going again. Lost 30 seconds overall. That allowed the number 8 Toyota to nip back ahead. And then we heard the team orders, didn't we? With about 14 hours to go for the number 8 car to let the number 7 through. They were on different strategies. From that moment, I knew that was it. It was the number 7's race to lose. It kept us down to the last minute as well. They brought both cars into the pit lane, stopped them for over a minute, and then did the usual Toyota thing. We like to see the good old Japanese efficiency and their tendency to show off a lot as well. We've seen with Toyota over the years. Started all the way back with Ferrari and Ford, didn't it? In the 60s when they wanted a uniform finish across the line. The 2 Toyotas, 1-2 across the line. But they made sure that the number 7 was 2 laps ahead of the number 8 Toyota. They remember what happened to the Fords back in '66 with Bruce Mclaughlin taking the win away from Miles as well. Toyota once again dominant. I was surprised. I was hoping for an Alpine surprise victory. I was even hoping for an LMP2 overall. They were very quick. All hypercars finishing, which is great news as well. That's a big ego boost for them as well. They now know going into the next couple of races, I think in Bahrain, isn't it? That they've got the cars that are now reliable. They can last the distance and no silly mistakes. So yeah, definitely a good day all round for Toyota and a good day all round for the new hypercar, the hypercar class as well. Such a shame it's short-lived with the main hydrogen class coming in a couple of years' time.
Yes, I agree with you. I thought it was a great debut for the Le Mans Hypercar class. Can't wait till we have Peugeot coming in next to challenge Glickenhaus, and we'll see what Alpine's going to do. Are they going to run an LMH car or an LMDH car? And the other manufacturers coming around as well. And it's going. I think Le Mans 2023, 2024. It's going to be an epic time to be a sports car racing fan. And while we didn't see much drama at the front of the field in Hypercar, we had major late race drama in LMP2, similar to the dramatic, heartbreaking 2016 24 Hours of Le Mans when Toyota was going to win the race overall, but their LMP1 car lost power in the final minutes. Then Porsche came through to steal the show. Team WRT, who most sports car fans are used to seeing fill Audi LMS GT3 cars, were looking to get an epic 1-2 finish in the LMP2 class on the final lap. The number 41 car was leading and stopped on track in such a heartbreaking, gutting defeat, which allowed the sister car, the number 31 Orica, to come through and take the checker flag. An LMP2 class victory for Robin Franz, Ferdinand Hasberg, and Charles Milesi at the very last minute. We've seen it before at Le Mans with Toyota and now WRT. Is this the absolute worst possible way to lose a crown jewel race?
Absolutely. And it's going to sting. And it's going to sting bad. This is worse than getting stung by a million wasps, getting trampled on, getting stung by jellyfish, anything. This one is going to leave a lasting scar right here in your heart because it's the one that got away. And it was so brutal as well throughout the entire commentary as well. I was saying Le Mans, yes, it's a marathon, but the last hour as well, it counts for absolutely nothing if you do not get across that line and finish that last lap. And as soon as I realized as well, it gave us the excitement in the last hour because the GT Pro class and AM class sort of wrapped up. The LMP, the Hypercar it's been called, but it's really the LMH, isn't it? That has all been wrapped up early on. So the LMP2 was sort of the only battle we had. And it was so good to see that the 31 and 41, they're both the same team, WRT, switching places as well after the pit stop. And the 41 was with Robert Kubica. I thought, what a great story for Robert. His first big success after his horrible injury back in 2011 as well. To win Le Mans with that injury as well. Finally putting all that behind him as well. And proving that he is still a quick, competitive racing driver with an amazing team behind him. And then what happens? The last lap comes about as well, and the car breaks down. We actually worked it out after we came off air as well. If Toyota hadn't showboated in the pit lane and just completed the lap times as normal, they would have made it, and it would have broken down on the way back to the pit lane. So even worse out there. I saw a tweet from one of the drivers as well, not Kubica. It said, this one hurts, this one stings, it's going to stay with me for a long, long time as well. He akined it as well to everybody else going home with a fabulous bride, and he's the only one left, sat alone with the music going in a dark hallway as the glitter ball's been turned off. And I think that's how they're going to feel. And I was heartbroken for them as well. But going towards the end of the race, it certainly gave us, I think, what is the closest finish in Le Mans where it was level across the line.
Yes, and right now I'm looking at a tweet from one of the drivers, Louis Delatraz. Well, actually, it's not a tweet. I think it's an Instagram post, and Louis Delatraz says, I quote, "I have no words. I'm crying. This is so cruel. Why us? Why on the last lap after 23 hours and 58 minutes? We had a big lead. We had to win, and the car stopped. I cannot believe it. Winning Le Mans has been a dream of mine since a kid. I want to thank all my crew and teammates who did a faultless job." And he said, "This one hurts, but I will come back stronger." So that's from one of the drivers, Louis Delatraz.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one you were talking about.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, you've got it right there. So maybe playing tricks, but yeah, absolutely, that's the one from Delatraz. Yeah, but
yes.
It's heartbreaking as well, and you can hear it in his voice, even through the text as well. And having followed Delatraz's career as well, as I'm sure we all have here on the show as well, you know just how much of a quick guy he is and how much of a racer he is. And yeah, this one's going to sting a lot.
Yes, definitely. It's going to sting for a very long time. But I'm sure Louis Delatros is going to have many more opportunities to go win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, whether it's LMP2 or since we all know how talented of a driver he is, maybe he'll get a factory ride someday in LMH or LMDH and I'll be able to go win overall. I'm sure if Delatros is able to win the race overall, then all of those pains will finally go away and stand with LMP2. We had a scary moment coming to the checker flag. We know it's traditional at Le Mans to see the flag waver go down onto the racetrack and wave the checkered flag as the cars zoom by. The number 31 Team WRT LMP2 car didn't easily win the race after the sister car's misfortune, but they had to hold off the number 28 Orga from Jota Sport. Less than a second separated them at the end. As both LMP2s were fighting for the win on the home stretch, the flag waver almost got hit by the class winning LMP2 car. Josh, do you think it's time to rethink the tradition of having the flag waver on the track at the finish, or was this just one of those rare one-time close calls?
I called it in the commentary that it was a close one. That was it took my breath away a little bit, calling the end of the race. I don't know if it comes across on camera, but my eyes got like that, and I leaned back a little bit while calling the end. 0.723. That was all the difference as well, and it was caused by the GT car, the winner in the GTM, the GT Pro category, the 51 AF Corsa, backing up as well because we had all three winners cross the line at the same time as well. So everyone's slowing down in different positions. And it was the last lap battle, wasn't it, between the Jota Sport and the 31 WRT. That was the last lap battle. They were closing down on each other as soon as the 41 got stepped out. Something that we spotted up in the commentary box. I think the World Feed commentators noticed, but Eurosport didn't notice. Interesting enough. So little thing there as well that we picked up on things that they didn't. Just a nice little tick there for the amateurs, if you will. But yeah, with that as well, with the flag on the track, it's always struck me as a backward step. I know Le Mans is history and it's the big Rolex moment. They play it in the banners during the adverts as well. The flags across the cars as well. I mean, everyone knows how good the checkered flags are. They're a part of history. We've got them behind me in the commentary box here. I would say the way the reason that marshal's there, I've got a picture of it right here, look, and I'm looking at it the same as you all are. He's right there. He's right in the middle of the action. I haven't got a problem if he's on the track. I've got a problem with how far into the track he is. He's practically standing in the middle of the track. If you remember the 2003 British Grand Prix at Silverstone with the preacher who ran onto the track, he's basically right in the middle again, this flag waver. The flag is actually over the front of the car. We were nanoseconds away from a catastrophe at the end of a great race. So, yeah. Get him way off the racing line. If that happens next year, I want him stood on the right up against the pit wall with a little concrete block in front of him as well, and probably like a glass-proof case that can just stick his little arm out and wave the flag. Get him protected. Get him off the racing line because, as we've proved here, it's rare at Le Mans to have a side-by-side at the line. But it happens. 0.723. An interesting little fact for you here. It is one of the closest finishes in Le Mans history. 0.723. Because even I looked it up as well. Because even the one in 66, that was over a second because it was the gaps across. So yeah, there you go. Little stat for you.
Yes, I'm really glad we avoided the worst case scenario there, and I totally agree with you. I think the flag waiver was certainly way too far off into the racetrack. Obviously, if he had stayed a little bit closer to the pit wall, I think that would have been a little bit more acceptable. And just thinking about that tradition at Le Mans and thinking about the Rolex 24 at Daytona, it would seem kind of odd to have the flag man standing in the tribal grass, or whatever, to waving the checker flag. That would be interesting, but I'm not sure if IMSA is interested in something like that. But I've always thought that was a cool tradition at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Looking at some of the other class winners, we had Dragon Speed taking LMP2 Pro class victory with Henrik Hetman, Ben Hanley, and Juan Pablo Montoya, who Adam Lemeris and I talked about on Wednesday Grit Tonight, wondering if an LMP2 car could win overall, so Juan Pablo Montoya could get that Triple Crown. He still got a class victory, but the Triple Crown is going to have to wait another year AF Corse and Ferrari were victorious in GTE Pro. The number 51 Ferrari of Alessandro Perguidi, James Calado, and Come Gar won that class. Finally, GTM ended with AF Corsa sweeping both GT classes, an exciting victory for the number 83 Ferrari of Francois Perotto, Nicholas Nilsson, and Alessio Rivera. And Josh, we know it's late over there in the UK. You're exhausted after covering this entire 24-hour race on your YouTube channel. Before we let you go get some well-deserved rest, I want to give you an opportunity to tell us what's your Grid one shining moment from the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
I thought it would be hard to pick just one moment after such a great race, but it's not hard at all. My one shining moment, the one team, literally the number one car team, the Richard Mille Racing team as well, the all-female lineup. We had Tatiana Calderon, Beitske Visser, and Sophia Flörsch, and they were doing so well. And then a little incident as well when they got taken out by no fault of their own by the race leader in LMP2, the 26G drive as well. And they got slammed into by the 74 as well in that very tricky conditions about 6 to 7 hours in to the race. But definitely the spirit that team has put in, and those three drivers as well have been absolutely fantastic. And the reason they stick out for me as well is that many drivers as well, especially male drivers with their male egos getting in the way, usually go off and that's it. I've lost Le Mans, that's it, I'm out. No, the one thing I respected about these drivers as well was the fact Sophia, Tatiana, and Beitske all stayed until the very end of the race with their team. They helped them pack up. They supported each other as a team. That is sportsmanship. And honestly, I loved every second of it. And I cannot wait because I honestly believe that next year they're going to be right up there battling for podiums and even battling for a win. They've got such a strong lineup there. And it's just brilliant to see. So yeah, they're my one shining moment. In fact, I'll have a second one as well. They didn't win overall because they were a separate class, but the interview class as well, the 84 squad, they were set up as well. All the drivers there were disabled as well, and some of them were paralyzed from the waist down. They were able to go out there and race due to a fantastic charity that set up the racing team as well, and by one great man as well, who was unfortunately a quad amputee who also wanted people to have their dream of racing in cars. They went out there today. They did absolutely fantastic as well. So they're the two moments there because they just popped back into my mind. And honestly, it's been such a great Le Mans. Over 40 hours I've been awake to cover it. I know, Kobe, you've done a long shift as well over there. I got told as well by Joe, who'll be hopefully joining the show later. But honestly, I think you can agree with me. This is going to be one of the greatest Le Mans we've seen in a long time because of the anticipation and sort of the way it sets the future of the sport. It's absolutely brilliant, and certainly a big tick in the record books done then for the 89th. And next year, this is the 90th, big party. I'm certainly down for a big party. Can't wait.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to many more 24 Hours of Le Mans in the future. And just like you were saying, you've been up for 40 hours, and we're going to continue on with the show, NASCAR and INDYCAR. So thank you so much always for making the sacrificing your sleep, being here with us. I know it's late here on the East Coast, and for you, it's very early in the morning in the UK. So please be sure you get yourself some rest because you deserve it, every hour of it.
I will. Don't you worry. I will. Good night to you all. Have a great show.
Thank you. See you, Josh. And next, gonna move on to NASCAR with Ben Snyder.
Yeah, I just got to give kudos to Josh as well. You know, I sitting here as a fan can't make it through all 24 hours. You know, I can only imagine if I had the work of broadcasting it, and also to all the drivers, teams, and mechanics as well. You know, it's not easy, this endurance racing stuff. I want to give my hats off to everybody who put on a great show at Le Mans this weekend. So moving over to NASCAR now, NASCAR at Michigan today, and Hendrick Motorsports dominated most of the race with Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, and William Byron all taking turns leading laps. It looked like they were on path for another HMS victory until the final restart. Kyle Busch gave Ryan Blaney a huge push, putting the number 12 Ford into the lead. Blaney used the clean air out front to stay ahead, win the race, 7th in a row for Ford at Michigan, as Byron and Larson couldn't find a way around him. Dirty air was a problem throughout the race. If drivers couldn't carry the momentum attempting a pass, they lost out big time. So guys, were you surprised by Blaney's win, and how did Hendrick let this one slip away?
Well, Ben, to be honest, I was a little surprised by Ryan Blaney winning this race. I didn't expect to see Blaney up front contending for the win. I thought it was going to be a Hendrick Motorsports type of day. I know we saw Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, William Byron, all up front, leading those laps like you were saying. And I thought it was just going to be another HMS party. And then that last restart, Kyle Busch gave him Ryan Blaney the push. I think that's exactly what done it. And you mentioned the dirty air really hard to pass. It seemed like they could not get it. They couldn't carry the momentum. Didn't have enough power to get around Ryan Blaney there at the end. And Ryan Blaney has to thank Kyle Busch for that win. And he was at the right place at the right time. And it was really nice seeing the choose cone rule play a factor in today's race.
I have to agree with you, Kobe. Even though I picked Matty D to win yesterday on the show, Ryan Blaney, we all thought it was going to. We talked about yesterday about the Chevrolets not having a lot of success at Michigan. Well, they almost won today with Hendrick Motorsports. But Ryan Blaney had a really strong run. Overall, it's really cool to see him win. And next week, NASCAR goes to Daytona, and all eyes are going to be on the final playoff position. It's going to be a wild, crazy race like it usually is. We all don't know who's going to be there, but overall, I think today's race in Michigan was overall one of the best races of this NASCAR year.
Well, and Adam, I'm glad you bring up the playoff picture because one of the drivers battling for the final playoff spot was Austin Dillon, racing Brad Keselowski hard coming across the line at the end of the second stage. Both drivers made contact after the stage ended, after they crossed the finish line, Dillon going on head-on into the outside wall on the front stretch, and an impact so hard that his number 3 Chevrolet almost flipped over. Fortunately, Dillon got out of the car unharmed, but the incident leaves him 25 points below the cut line, entering the regular season finale at Daytona. And this was a big hit for Austin Dillon. We know he's had some success at Michigan in the past, some strong finishes. Looked like he had a car that could potentially even win the race today and lock himself in. So an unfortunate situation for him and the Richard Childress Racing team. On the radio after the accident, Keselowski was very upset that Dillon had crashed and clearly didn't mean for it to happen. Dillon also said he felt Keselowski could have given him more room. So do you guys agree with Austin Dillon's take, or in your mind, was it just an unfortunate racing incident?
I think it was just an unfortunate racing incident. Going back and looking at the replays, there wasn't a lot of room. I know Austin Dillon was going really hard, to lock himself in today, and I believe, next Saturday night he's going to have to put it all on the line at Daytona, to lock himself in to the playoffs. It's gonna. I felt sorry for. I believe Austin Dillon. If the accident would have happened, I believe that he would have had a strong top 10 finish today. But Saturday at Daytona, Austin Dillon's gonna have to push all his chips in, to see if he can lock himself in, and I believe he will.
Yeah, with Austin Dillon, I thought RCR definitely built him a really fast number 3 Chevrolet, and if that accident hadn't happened, I really do agree that he could have been a contender for the win today at Michigan and locked himself in the playoffs. But now, like you said, I'm gonna cash all those chips. He's gonna have to go out there and try to win Daytona. I know it's a 25-point cushion, and theoretically, if he won both stages, he can make up 20 points right there on Tyler Reddick. But realistically, he's just gonna have to go out there and win. And I think it was just one of those unfortunate racing incidents. They're racing hard at the end of stage 2, racing for those playoff points. Austin Dillon, it was just super unfortunate that the incident happened with Brad Keselowski. Yeah, and clearly Brad didn't mean to do it on purpose. And Austin Dillon apologized to the team on the radio afterwards. So So basically both drivers just gonna have to put it behind them, move on, and we'll get ready to go racing at Daytona.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made both ways. Maybe Keselowski shouldn't have been side drafting that hard after they'd already crossed the line. It was clear Dillon was going to get the position for the stage. But at the same time, Dillon came up and cleared himself when Keselowski was still there. So in my mind, I'm with you guys. I think it was just a racing incident as well. One driver who wasn't really a factor all day was Kevin Harvick. Entering today in the last 4 Michigan races, Harvick won 3 of them, including the doubleheader last year. Most of the race, Harvick struggled with the handling of the car, and the car didn't show the speed needed to contend, only finishing 14th. We've talked a lot on this program about the up and down 2021 season for Stewart Haas Racing, and clearly there's still a lot of work to do. So with the playoffs around the corner and Stewart Haas still working to improve their cars, do you guys see Kevin Harvick making a deep playoff run, or will it be an early exit?
I believe it will be an early exit for Kevin Harvick. Like you said, like you just mentioned, Stewart Haas Racing really has had an up and down year, and I believe Kevin Harvick is at the end. I know Kobe and I have discussed, on Grid tonight, with Jeff Gordon leaving, to go join Hendrick Motorsports, who would take this spot alongside Mike Joy and Clint Boyer. I said many times, I believe it could be Kevin Harvick, and I believe that he'll either retire this year or next year. He does have a family. He does have his wife, Delana, and a couple kids. So, they probably want to have more family time. I know it's hard on each NASCAR driver, since a lot of them travel from race to race and they don't get a chance to see their family a lot. So I believe it'll be an early exit for Kevin Harvick in the NASCAR playoffs.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Adam. With the way Stewart Haas Racing has been running this year, up and down, I really don't see Kevin Harvick as a major contender for the championship. And it's really crazy that I even have to say that after the season he had last season. And I know I brought this up time and time again on the show. It seemed like after that race at Texas Motor Speedway last fall, it completely fell apart for Kevin Harvick, and they haven't been able to recover ever since. It's crazy. We're so deep into this season, and Kevin Harvick still hasn't won a race yet. And I would be really stunned if this team makes a deep playoff run. But certainly, if we're talking about early exits, we know after the first round we're gonna have 12 left in the field of 16. And I think at the moment you have to question if Kevin Harvick is going to be one of those drivers who don't make it to the round of 12.
Well, I do think it is worth a reminder that if you want to talk about Stewart Haas Racing in particular, Tony Stewart went on his championship run in 2011, didn't have a victory. Back then it was called the chase, of course, until the chase began. Was even quoted as saying, "We don't deserve to be in the chase." And of course, we all know what happened in the chase, going on to win 5 of the 10 races and with it, the championship. So with this playoff format we have right now, you can argue Harvick should have been the champion last year after the season he had. It may not look likely right now, but there's still definitely a path forward for him. But I've got to say, based on how Stewart Haas has looked this season, I'm with you guys. It's probably going to be an early exit. But if there's anybody that can rise to the occasion, it's probably going to be somebody like Kevin Harvick, who's already been there, already won a championship, and a veteran of the series.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up, Ben. Tony Stewart's magical championship run, when he said that he didn't deserve to be in playoffs. And if Kevin Harvick is able to pull the same thing off, I believe nearly 10, it'd be 10 years later, that would be a really remarkable feat. And now moving on to INDYCAR, the NTT INDYCAR Series Championship has been blown wide open after Saturday night's race at Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway. Renus VK made contact with Alex Palou, the championship points leader, who clipped Scott Dixon, and all three crashed out of the race, although Dixon was able to return for a handful of laps before parking, and the car was too damaged to continue. This allowed Joseph Newgarden, Marcus Ericsson, and Pato O'Ward an opportunity to gain in the championship. In the end, Newgarden got another win at Gateway, and O'Ward left as the new championship points leader. Were you surprised by such a chaotic race? What was the biggest surprise to you?
Well, I think the biggest surprise was probably Romain Grosjean in his oval debut with some of the moves that he was able to put on the field and, look like a veteran out there. Certainly not somebody who you would think was making his oval debut. And, there's talks about him and maybe Jimmy Johnson as well. Thinking about the Indianapolis 500 next year, I think Grosjean's probably going to be committed to that. Looked like he had a lot of fun and certainly raced well. I got to say, I was certainly surprised to see so much chaos, especially at the start of the race. We had that issue with the caution lights not going off or going off very briefly and then coming back on as well. There was some confusion when Colton Herta was leading after a restart. And then, you had the big accident, obviously, with the two Ganassi cars and Renus VK. And that completely shakes up the entire championship. It's been a long time. I think you have to go back to maybe Sam Hornish with Panther Racing in 2002 for the last time a team not named Penske, Ganassi, or Andretti won a championship. And now Pato O'Ward looks to be in very good position to do that with Arrow McLaren SP. So it's going to be an exciting championship battle, and we certainly got a thrilling race at Gateway to help set it up.
I have to completely agree with you, Ben. Last night's INDYCAR race was, I had a lot of us picked Scott Dixon, to win, and unfortunately that didn't happen. I'll say also that Romain Grosjean really surprised me. You think he has practiced in a sim rig, on an oval, to get prepared for Gateway, because he looked like a veteran out there last night. I actually thought he was going to win after, but now with the championship, last three races on the West Coast being Portland, Laguna Seca, and Long Beach, this championship, I believe, is going to go right down to the last lap in Long Beach, and it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yes, it's certainly going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. And it was really crazy. We saw such a chaotic race at Gateway of all places. I wonder, is this Gateway or Talladega in terms of chaos and drama? And this championship battle, all of the crazy things that happened last night on the short oval, it's really setting up to be a barn burner as we get down to the wire in the NTT IndyCar Series Championship in 2021. And besides Alex Palou, Renus VK, and Scott Dixon having a bad night, Graham Rahal got taken out in a crash with Ed Jones. Colton Herta had a broken drive shaft, and Alexander Rossi got up into the marbles, hit the wall, crashed out of the race. All three of those drivers retired. 9 drivers are still in the hunt for the championship, but IndyCar is getting 2 weeks off before the Portland Grand Prix and entering Portland. Drivers in the top 4 can lead Portland with the points lead. Marcus Ericsson still has time to be consistent and put in more good runs to make some noise and potentially play spoiler late in the season. However, Colton Herta, Graham Rahal, and Will Power are definitely in a must-win, win the pole and bonus points mode. How disappointing is it for Andretti Autosport to only have one long shot driver, Colton Herta, left in the championship picture?
For them, it's probably really sad to see. I believe Michael Andretti, who is a former IndyCar champion and overall one of the best to drive. He's probably really disappointed overall with his team this year. Everyone at Andretti Autosport is really, really talented, and only to see one of their drivers, Colton Herta, have a shot to win the championship, they're going to have to, at the end of the year, they're going to have to look, and see how they can climb back from this disappointing year and go into the off season and then into the 2022 season, hoping to have a bounce back overall year.
Now, I want to talk for a second specifically about Rossi, because this isn't the first time that he's crashed out, when he's been in contention for a strong finish and maybe even a win. You think back to the season finale at St. Pete last year when he was leading the race and crashed out completely on his own. And, this is a guy who came over from a very brief stint in Formula One with Manor and went out, won the Indy 500 rookie season. Kind of came into his own through 2017, got another win at Watkins Glen. And then 2018, 2019, he's top 3 in the championship contending for a title so early in his IndyCar career. And we were talking about him as the next American superstar and how he'd really found a home here in this series in his home country that he loved. And, you think back to last year, everybody said it was a down year for him last year. He still had 5 podiums, didn't have a win, but, it was still a solid season by most drivers' standards. This year has just been a complete throwaway. It doesn't even have a single podium yet. So, I think if you're Andretti Autosport right now, you really have to consider making some changes. I don't know if that involves swapping drivers out or team personnel or whoever. But, you look at Rossi right now, we talk about who's the American superstar in IndyCar right now. You got his teammate, Colton Herta. You got Joseph Newgarden, who was the big winner at Gateway last night. Graham Rahal's ahead of him in the points. Rossi's not even in the top 3 when we talk about American drivers in the series. So, when it comes to Rossi, I think obviously he's a very talented driver. But, there's just something about the combination right now with him and Andretti Autosport that just isn't working. And I'm not sure, based on what we've seen the last 2 years, if it's going to take anything less than a major change to rectify that.
And Ben, you bring up an excellent point about Alexander Rossi. Myself, I'm really surprised that Alexander Rossi hasn't developed into this big superstar we all thought he was going to be. And it's crazy, as recently as 2019, remember when he was swapping the lead back and forth with Simon Pagenaud at the end of Indianapolis 500? I was thinking, this is the Alexander Rossi we're going to get in the IndyCar series, and he's going to have multiple wins and be battling for many championships for many years to come in IndyCar. And also a stat, the last time Alexander Rossi won a race I tweeted last night was June 23rd, 2019 at Road America. So it's been over 2 years. I'm sure Rossi is really hungry for a win, and he looked very competitive last night at Gateway. And I'm sure it really stings badly for that incident to happen, because who knows what could have happened if he hadn't have got up into the Marvels and shunted at Gateway. And as for Colton Herta, I think it's clear that he's the number 1 driver right now at Andretti Autosport, despite some troubles that he's had in recent races. It looked like he was going to win at Nashville, crashed out of that race, had a drive shaft brake mechanical issue last night at Gateway. Really unfortunate, and it's been rumored that we're going to see some big changes at Andretti next year, particularly in the number 28 and 29 Honda, with Ryan Hunter-Reay likely out of that seat. And he told Racer.com recently that he had always planned for this to be his last year at Andretti Autosport. So he basically confirmed that he won't be returning to that car next year. And Roman Grosjean has been rumored to be in talks with Andretti to take over Hunter-Reay's seat. And then the number 29 car expected to have someone replace James Hinchcliffe there. So we'll definitely see some shakeup on the driver's side. But as far as team personnel, it might be a really good thing for Michael Andretti to go to the drawing board and put the right people in the right places, so Andretti Autosport can return to being a more competitive organization across the board. And 2 rookies that had a really good race at Gateway with Scott McLaughlin and Roman Grosjean, who really put on quite a show, including making some overtakes on the outside. And both of these drivers come from different disciplines, with Grosjean being a Formula One veteran, Scott McLaughlin winning multiple championships in those heavy supercars. And he both of them ran extremely well on the short oval. And Sebastian Bourdais got a top 5 finish for AJ Ford Racing, which is something that Seabass really needed after a season full of bad luck. Which driver is most likely to take this positive result and carry it on to the West Coast swing?
For me, I'm going to have to, this may sound weird, but maybe in Supercars expert here, I'm going to say Scott McLaughlin. I'm truly surprised he hasn't won yet this year. I believe when IndyCars head off to the West Coast for the last 3 races of the year, Portland, Laguna Seca, and Long Beach, I believe Scott McLaughlin will be a contender for all 3 races, and I believe he will win one of those 3 races. overall, it's been really cool to see Scott McLaughlin come over from supercars and have really good success this year in the NTT IndyCars. I know his fans and his family across the Pacific Ocean in Australia and New Zealand are. I know it's sometimes the races over there can be really late for them, but overall, I believe Scott McLaughlin has had a really good, strong rookie year, and next year I believe he will be a contender for the overall championship.
Yeah, I'm there with you, Adam. I think McLaughlin is certainly going to be a contender. I've been surprised and pleasantly surprised at how quickly he's adapted to oval racing as well here in the IndyCar series. You bring up Grosjean as well, Kobe. I think, everybody's been super impressed with him, and to do it with Dale Coyne racing with Rick Ware Racing. I know Rick Ware's team is the butt of a lot of jokes in the NASCAR series, but they have come in and really done an incredible job partnering with Dale Coyne to give Grosjean, a strong car and the opportunity to compete for race wins. So, I'm going to say I think both of them, could carry this momentum forward, and wouldn't be surprised to see either of them win one of these final 3 races.
Yes, and for me, I think the driver who can really carry the momentum is Scott McLaughlin. So I'm joining you, Adam, on Team Scott McLaughlin here. And they talked a little bit about him on the broadcast and how Scott's been saying that it's certainly been a process learning a new discipline of racing, and how Team Penske didn't bring him over here just for one season and then send him back to Australia to go race in supercars. That Team Penske is committed to him long term. They're going to let him learn oval racing, open wheel racing in general over here in the States. And I do think we'll see a more competitive Scott McLaughlin next season. And I remember when he did I believe it was last year when he did the preseason test at COTA, he said a very fast lap time. He was I don't remember if he was the fastest, but I think he was certainly up there in the top 5, top 10, running incredible lap times. And I'm thinking Scott McLaughlin is going to be another Robert Wickens, and I really hate the accident happened to Robert Wickens a couple of years ago in Pocono, because I feel like he would have developed into a true IndyCar superstar. But when I think about Scott McLaughlin, I also think about Robert Wickens, because it's that raw ability, that raw talent, and it's something that not many drivers possess. And I think once Scott starts to feel more comfortable in these cars, getting all the experience, learning new things, I really do believe that he'll eventually become a championship contender in the IndyCar series, and maybe we'll see him make a NASCAR one-off here and there, because he's certainly had interest in the past of NASCAR on the road courses, and we're very excited about bringing you coverage from the Road City in a few weeks. Portland International Raceway, which has hosted 24 kart races and 2 IndyCar races since the merger. GRIDnet is going to be there on site, and be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon below so you don't miss our on-site coverage when it's time for the Grand Prix of Portland.
Now it's time for an update in the grid ranking. The NTT IndyCar Series saw the biggest fallout as both Palou and Dixon crashed out. Ward took second place, but with no laps led. Palou still in the top 10, but tied with Cam Waters. And in NASCAR, Kyle Larson finished third at Michigan with another strong run. NASCAR's strength of competition dropped as more races have had 37 starters. Michigan was the 8th race with only 37 drivers taking the green flag in the NASCAR Cup Series. Prior to Michigan, 7 races have had 38 starters. Next weekend, we have Formula One at Spa, MotoGP comes to Silverstone, and NASCAR's Cup Series returns to Daytona for the regular season finale. So Verstappen, Hamilton, Quartararo, Larson, all up in the top 10. Who's the most likely to have the best weekend next week?
Well, for me, I'm definitely not going to pick Kyle Larson here, because we're going to a wild card track, Daytona, and Kyle Larson has a knack for getting caught up in wrecks on super speedways. And until he doesn't, I don't feel comfortable picking Kyle Larson to have the better weekend. But I'm sure Joe would, since it seems like he picks Kyle Larson every other week. But I can't really decide. I'm torn between Hamilton and Verstappen at Spa, so I can't really give you a clear answer. I certainly think it's going to come from Formula One, though. Sir Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen. I just can't decide which one.
I'm torn too, Kobe. I don't think Kyle Larson's going to have a really good weekend at Daytona. But I'm going to go out and say Lewis Hamilton has a really good, strong weekend at Spa. I believe he will overall he'll have a really good weekend. Obviously, he'll probably start in at least the top 5. And we all know the history of Spa. We know what can happen there. So I can't wait, to see the continuing battle between Sir Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen around the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit next Sunday.
Yeah, well, I'm with you guys. It's kind of hard to predict Larson given the nature of racing at Daytona and, certainly the opportunity to get taken out in a wreck not of your own doing. But then again, the points totally reset in NASCAR after Daytona for the NASCAR playoffs. So maybe it's not going to matter that much for Larson in the grand scheme of things should he get caught up in any sort of trouble there. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Grid Ranking and the Grid World Motorsport League at Grid_WML. And now it's time for the one shining moment.
That's right, Ben. Now it's time for our Grid One Shining Moment of the weekend. So I'll start with you, Kobe. What was your Grid One Shining Moment of this motorsports weekend?
Well, my Grid One shining moment, I'm actually going to talk about a driver who did not race in any of the races that we covered here on the air this weekend. Got to give a big shout out to Alex Albon, who won his very first DTM race. And I think that's a big confidence boost for Alex Albon to show that he can compete alongside high quality talented drivers, and he can go out there, get the job done, win races, and I think that's really going to help his confidence moving forward in the DTM championship and whatever he decides with his future racing endeavors. So that's why Alex Albon is my Grid One shining moment.
Yeah, I was trying to think. We had a few ARCA races this weekend, 2 in the main ARCA series, 1 ARCA West. If there was anything to pick out from that, we had some solid races there, but it's hard not to go back to Le Mans and give a one shining moment to the number 7 Toyota team. Obviously, Toyota have dominated the 24 hours of Le Mans the last few years, but that number 17, Mike Conway, Jose Maria Lopez, and Kamui Kobayashi finally breaking through and getting the number 7 car the overall win. There's nobody more deserving than that team, and Toyota overall another strong 1-2 finish. Also want to give a shout out to Juan Pablo Montoya winning the LMP2 Pro-Am class. Maybe you could say now he has the Mario Andretti style triple crown with wins at Monaco and the Indy 500 and the class win at Le Mans. So maybe this is going to be an opportunity for him to put something else in his resume to get a top Le Mans seat in the future and go for that triple crown. So got to give a couple of one shining moments to Le Mans and especially the Toyota team. Well-deserved victory from number 7 crew.
Well, for me, it's got to go to our colleague, Joshua Birch. For those of you who don't know, if you saw at the beginning of the show, he was doing a watch along on his YouTube channel, 12 hours live and 12 hours worth of highlights. Him, his sister Megan, and their dad Ian all did a really good job. I know it wasn't easy for Josh, staying awake all those 24 hours, to cover the race and to be on with us earlier on in the show. We all want to say to Josh, you did an awesome job this weekend. So for me, my Grid One shining moment has to go to our colleague Joshua Birch on the watch along on his YouTube channel with the 24 hours of Le Mans.
Yeah, we definitely got to give a big shout out to Josh for doing that all 24 hours. It just shows how passionate he is about motorsports in general, and he takes his race coverage really seriously. I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't be able to cover a race online for 24 hours straight without even taking a major break. So got to give a big shout out to him. Kudos to you, Josh. You're an inspiration to us all. And be sure to like and subscribe to GRIDnet. We're here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Pablos has dog leashes, clothes, and accessories for dogs of all sizes. 10% of your purchase will go towards helping homeless, sick, and rescue dogs. A great cause that Grid Network supports. Also, look at our new sponsor, Public.com, the stock market social media home. Our referral code provides you $5 to kick off your investment adventure. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You have an opportunity to make even more friends, and you'll learn how to properly invest in the stock market so you're not making any mistakes that'll trip you up. Finally, we want to thank our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, and D. Schill, for your wonderful support. Everybody at GRIDnet, we truly appreciate you. And unfortunately, we're out of time for tonight. With that said, for Ben Snyder, Josh Birch, who was here earlier, and Adam Lemeries, I'm Kobe Lambert for the Podium Finish. Thank you.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, Public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on Public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on Public.com.